So I think we need to remind the states, like, they took commitment and political commitment, but they are also human rights obligation to respect the right of migrants and all migrants, including undocumented children. And there are things, concrete actions they could take immediately, you know, like who have a direct impact on the students and learners. For instance, removing discriminatory laws. This is super easy, and it is still the case in many countries. Removing administrative barrier. So, for instance, like, you know, they ask for document to register to school. This is easy to put in place. And one thing we need to ensure and work hard is to ensure all this law and policy are implemented in practice, because the big challenge at the moment is to making sure at the local level they are going to respect this law and policy, for instance, regarding the removing of administrative documents. And also I think it's important to work collectively. So if we assess the exact needs of these migrants in different regions and we respond collectively, it has been raised today in the launch of the report in the UK about the issue of teacher and how we cannot pay the teacher, and especially the teacher who are migrants as well. I mean, we should raise the funds needed to ensure we can deliver the education for all kids, including the migrants, especially when there is this flow of massive migrants, and maybe a city hall cannot respond to this huge amount of people. So we need to respond collectively and put the money needed to ensure everyone has access to the right to education. So states play a key role in advocating and making the states accountable. So one thing they are doing well is really to identify where there are problems and to raise that at the local or national level. And making recommendations on how to improve the situation, especially when they work, you know, with the community or in the refugee camp or with a teacher who know well what are the issues. So to make recommendations, to report about violation if needed, and in last steps, if needed, we can even litigate the situation, which have been the case in Italy, where they took a very good decision to ensure access to education, particularly at early childhood. So I have two examples in mind. One was in Uganda quite long ago now, maybe around 2006, but it was a movement at the Makerere University in Uganda, in Kampala, where they advocate for the freedom of movement, because the refugees were not allowed to leave the camps and they couldn't access education because of that. So they did a lot of advocacy to allow some flexibility, which have been translated in the Refugee Act in 2006, based on this advocacy, and one of the reasons was based on the research and the need for refugees to leave the camps to access education. And another example, more recent, is, for instance, in Lebanon, where organizations like Human Rights Watch and other organizations working with them have pushed for the change in the policy. So in Lebanon, what the states were asking for Syrian refugees, they were asking for a document that proves the residency, a legal document proof residency, and also they was asking fees for refugees over 15 to access this legal residency. And of course, I mean, it was almost impossible for a refugee to pay. And so the civil society have been advocating first to removing the fee, which have done the government, but this was not enough, because to have this legal residency, they were asking for the passport of the refugee, which was not able to deliver, and then they couldn't have this residency statute, and because of that, they was afraid to travel and to pass the checkpoint and access education. So they managed to have the states to remove this requirement as well, and now they can access the residency statute with any other document.